Welcome back to Throwing It Down. I know the season isn't even close to starting. I know the NFL season just ended for the 2022-2023 season, but I'm ready to talk about 2023-2024 season. I don't care if the schedule's not out. I don't care if it's May. That's what I want to do. I want to talk about football, and that's what I'm going to do. So for this video, it's going to be a little different. We're not going to talk about the actual NFL teams, but we are going to talk about fantasy. And I was doing a little research, putting on the brain, and we got something right here. You can't see this because it's probably backwards for you, but that says NFL running backs. And yes, I not only ranked the top 10 NFL running backs for fantasy, not even the top 20, the top 60. Today, we're just going to go through the top 10, though. I just want to thank you all for watching. Please subscribe. I'm just doing this for fun and because I'm smart and I'm good at fantasy. So top 4 and 1 won my work league because, none of them are really that good at fantasy. But you do have to do what you got to do. And in my other one, I made it to the finals, but I actually lost. I would have lost in the championship game, but my guy had Josh Allen. Josh Allen didn't score enough points, so I still ended up winning that one. Winning 2 out of 3 in fantasy is top tier, so you get the best here. Anyways, I'm going to start with my rankings right now. Number 1, just because of his consistency, his team's consistency, and their propensity to score points in the offense and use him at the goal line. So I'm gonna predict this player to keep trending at the same level he's on. He's at his top level. He's only gonna be there for another 1 or 2 seasons because he's nearing the end of his contract. It's Austin Ekeler. He catches balls. He runs the ball. He is the workhorse of that offense. They didn't pick a running back to assist him in his offense. And with the addition of another receiver and the fact that they're going to have to develop the receiver in Quentin Johnston, I think it gives Austin Ekeler only more opportunities to catch the ball out of the backfield, which is one of the most important things, especially when we're talking about PPR scoring, because obviously catching the ball it's the equivalent of 10 yards right off the bat. He could lose 2 yards and you still gain points. Don't really like that too much, but I understand how it has to be incorporated. Number 2 in the number 1 tier, Jonathan Taylor. This is a little controversial, and I did a lot of thinking because I needed players who don't have competition in their backfield for this tier, remain consistent throughout the season, and he fit that category. He had an outlier season in specifically receiving, so he played about 11 games last season. He had 17 games the year before where he was the best player. He averaged 3.5 yards per target last season, while in the previous 2 years he averaged over 7. Complete outlier. His yardage was down. His catches were down, but the thing is his targets on a percentage basis compared to the amount of games he played in the seasons previous, it actually went up. So he was targeted a larger percentage of the time than he was even in the last year when he was the best running back. And along with the offensive line struggling, quarterback issues, the team is gonna have a year where they're gonna figure out where they are with Anthony Richardson, but adding another running threat to the backfield is important for Jonathan Taylor, and he is going to thrive because of that. It's going to help the offensive line. It's going to help him, and it's going to be great. I also have heard some experts say that Anthony Richardson actually, even though he can run, he tends to not scramble as much as you think he would based on his athletic profile. So he's going to be more likely to maybe dump it off to Jonathan Taylor, which running quarterbacks typically don't do with the running backs. Out of breath. We're going to go fast. I'm going to try and get this done in 10 minutes. Saquon Barkley, number 3. Same criteria as the other two. Workhorse back on a consistent team. They're getting better in the passing game. That's going to give Saquon more opportunities to run. He had a fantastic year last year, and I think the Giants, even though they may not have addressed much in the draft, they got a center. They got Darren Waller as a tight end, not in the draft, but in free agency. So we can see that the Giants are improving their offense. They're working towards getting better. They added another receiver, actually, which is important because Daniel Jones had no receivers last year. If the biggest addition to Saquon Barkley is adding those receivers, they'll give him more red zone attempts and more opportunity to have unstacked boxes. All right, so that's my top tier. So with my next tier of players, I'm going to put 4 players in this next tier. First of all, we have Christian McCaffrey. He's my number 4 player. A player that kind of makes me nervous. He can do it all. He can play receiver. He can play running back. And one of the great statistics I heard is when he has a backup running back that's in the game, specifically with the 49ers, so with Elijah Mitchell in the backfield, he scores about 16.5 fantasy points a game. But when he is the feature back, when Elijah Mitchell has been injured, he scored over 23. So if they're utilizing him like they definitely should be, because he's that good, he could even be their 3rd best receiver. He needs to be utilized more, especially because of San Francisco's quarterback position, which is very questionable. A lot of players coming back from injury, or Sam Darnold. And honestly, Sam Darnold would probably be the best option for him because he's the most experienced quarterback. He can dump it off to the running back. He even played with him in Carolina for a little bit. Not for a long time, but they at least have that trust. Or Brock Purdy, obviously. With Trey Lance at quarterback, he is a no-go. And by a no-go, I mean like he's still a top 10 running back, but still. Number 5, Bijan Robinson. I was nervous about my feelings about Bijan Robinson liking the Atlanta Falcons. And I wanted to think I liked him more than Saquon, and I think I do as a rookie coming out. Saquon was he was hit or miss. He was hot and cold. He would get an 80-yard gain, but then he'd follow that up with 15 rushes of 3 yards or less. So there was a lot of wishy-washy statistics with Saquon, and hey, if you're getting the yards, if you're getting the touchdowns at the end of the day, that's all that matters. But I would just trust Bijan more. Watching him through Texas throughout all his career, he was dominant from beginning to end. I trust Bijan in Atlanta's offense. Their offensive line's fantastic. They can't throw the ball, so they have to run. That's the only option. Not a lot of statistics to back him up, but he was picked 8th in the draft. He's going to run the ball, and he's going to run it well. He's set up for success. Number 6, Derrick Henry. I'm a Derrick Henry hater, personally, but the guy scores fantasy points. He puts up 100-yard games. He puts up 2 touchdown games consistently, always on the top of the leaderboards when it comes to running back fantasy points. And with these specifically last year and these next 2 years, he's going to be underdrafted, specifically because of his age. And I think That's what I'm looking for a lot when I pick players. I'm looking for values. It's hard to find values in the first couple rounds. This is where I think a huge value can come. Titans are not good. They're repairing a lot of positions. Their offensive line isn't even good, but Derrick Henry has shown that, kind of like Saquon, he struggles when he can't hit a hole hard and explode. Saquon's much better at making holes for himself. Derrick Henry has to have good blocking to be a good running back, but in the long run, they're going to run Derrick Henry 30 times a game. He's going to get the volume to warrant this ranking. Number 7, Josh Jacobs, the end of the tier. Fantastic year last year. This Raiders offense is how I want to highlight Josh Jacobs. They're going to be nuts. Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, they picked up a tight end, Mayer, in the draft, and even Hunter Renfrow. They have another receiver that I can't quite think of right now, but their team stacked for Josh Jacobs. The number one thing is that the passing game is going to take away potential issues in running scheme for him. And because he's such a consistent runner, he gets at least 4 yards a carry. He's strong. He's shown he can do well in the passing game, which I think is going to explode with the amount of attention they're going to have to give to these really good receivers. He's set up for a huge year, not only in the running game, but more in the passing game. That's why I like Josh Jacobs. The next tier, we're going to go 3 players, even though it's really a tier list of like 7, but we're going to get to that in the next episode if I ever make one. We'll see. Number 8, Ramondre Stevenson. I underrated him so much. I love Damian Harris, so trying to figure out where Ramondre Stevenson is going to come into the Patriots offense in the last 3 years, I really didn't care about, and I hate talking about my feelings when we're talking about football, but this is where I have to put my pride to the side and just realize the Patriots offense is better with Ramondre, and they don't even have Damian Harris in their backfield anymore. The only thing I'm a little nervous about with Ramondre, the Patriots are going to use at least 2 running backs. Ramondre, the plus for him is that he's going to be more utilized as a passing down back. Their offensive line is very consistent. They're not amazing, but they're not terrible. They're going to protect Mac Jones for the most part. They're going to block well for the most part, and they're going to give Ramondre that what he needs with his skill to be one of the top 10 running backs. Number 9 is Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb. He doesn't have Kareem Hunt with him anymore, but he does have some young running backs waiting in the back. And because of Cleveland's scheme, they use 2 running backs, and they love, for some reason, they hate using Nick Chubb at the goal line, which makes no sense because Nick Chubb is one of the best short yardage runners in the NFL. He's low to the ground, he's big, he's strong. He's not only one of the best short yardage runners, but he's one of the best runners. He's the best runner. He is my favorite running back in the NFL. He's just not the top fantasy option because they don't use him in the passing game, even though they can. They don't use him enough, even though they could. He's rarely hurt. He is the real deal. If you want a consistent running back, there's your guy. I like him. I love him. He's just not going to be one of the top tier guys because of his coach and his team. Cleveland has one of the best offensive lines, a great defense. They're probably going to change their defensive scheme. They might go much more run heavy this upcoming year, especially Deshaun Watson not being a great quarterback. There's a lot of things going in Nick Chubb's favor. He has the opportunity to be one of the top 5 backs, but Cleveland has to be a good defensive team to do so. and they haven't shown that the past couple years. My number 10 player, and I know I'm being really optimistic on this one, is Kenneth Walker. I'm biased because of the fact that he is my keeper in one league, so I want him to do well. Do I believe this ranking and this tier? Yes. And here are a couple reasons. Even though Seattle drafted a running back generally high in the draft, Kenneth Walker last year, he also had to play with DJ Dallas and Travis Homer, who they started to use more as the season went on, even though Kenneth Walker became healthier as the season went on. I think he had a leg injury towards the end of the season. But even before that, they were starting to use 3 running backs in a game at a time. And his opportunity was still consistent. It was still high. He was still able to use the good offensive line of Seattle to his advantage. And I believe he can be a top 10 back this year. Please subscribe. Give me your feedback. I would love it. But I just want you to know at the end of the day, I'm right. I'm right about these things, and you can accept it or not. All right. Thanks for watching again. It's your boy, MidED. Have a good day.